Hey, good morning, Linda. Sorry for we got all kinds of technical issues this morning, so dropping back and punting from the old phone. So glad you still made it and you're on board. I am not quite. Word for the day is persistence. That's one word. I was using other words before, but we won't talk about those. Yeah, in the world of cat skinning, there's more than one way, I'm told, and here we are. So, good morning, everybody. I hope you can find your way back here. We'll give it a second and see if we can find some folks along the way. So, I hope you are able to get out on this beautiful day and be a part of this day. Hey, Karen, I'm glad you finally found us. We're struggling through some technical issues this morning. The computer just didn't want to let me know that I was online. So no matter what I did, even though if I came online, it just wouldn't. It just got stuck in a death loop. So these things happen. But as Linda says, the word for the day is persistence. So, which is again, better than some other words I was thinking a little bit earlier. So, all right. Good morning, everybody. So as we get ready here, and as we're a part of this, we have the opportunity to sing a happy birthday today. So it is. It was on over the weekend. It was Vicky's birthday on Friday, and it was also Gary's birthday. But we did sing to Gary on Sunday because if your birthday falls on Sunday and you're at worship, we will punk you out. That is what that is. I make a promise to you. So, but we didn't get the chance on to sing to Vicky. So I want to give her a belated chance to hear her birthday song. So, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Vicky, happy birthday to you. All right, there you go. That's all the musical genius you get for today. Good morning, everybody. I hope you'll find this at least some point in your travels. And I apologize again for all of the technical works that have been were gumming up the works this morning. But welcome. It is this Tuesday on the 4th day of April. We are in the beautiful month of April, and the opportunity to gather together at 11:11. Glad you're here and glad you're a part of this journey. This is Holy Week. This is one of the oldest and most revered traditions within Christianity. This celebration of the week of the events leading up to Christ's death. You have the entirety of his life that is not captured in very fine detail, unlike this last week of Jesus' arrival in Jerusalem, his journey to the cross, and his resurrection, which is held down into the granular detail of the Christian world, and this has been, and so it's been observed in this way for since the very beginning. The first Holy Week observances were actually in the year 200. So even before before Christianity is recognized and is a part of the journey of what will become, the largest and most powerful tradition on the planet. This little moment, we're just in this nascent stages. The first thing that people realize is these events around this week are really important. They're really critical. And that we have the first recordings of the devotees of Holy Week are made in the year 200. And in fact, it's only a few years later that you'll find out that there's actually the idea of a discipline around this, that where we just came out of Lent, Lent ended on Sunday, and we just came out of Lent, that those disciplines are by 250 or so, we're getting records of the fact that people setting this time aside, setting this aside, and calling it a special time, calling it holy. We'll talk more about that in a second. By 300, when Constantine becomes emperor and Christianity becomes a recognized tradition, in some ways the recognized tradition of Rome, you have this entire week would be a week of abstinence from work. It was that the whole of the Roman world at that point would begin to gather and reenact and look at these events that would unfold in this week. That it was a week off. In England they'll still get a Easter Monday, which I always think is funny because what do you do on Easter that's so radical that you need a day to recover from it? But whatever. But even in the early Roman world, there was the entire week was this. And so it bears some time to spend a little meditating on. It bears some time to think about for a moment. And so here we find ourselves in this Holy Tuesday, as these days are described. And I want us to think about this. It's in some ways, this is just any other Tuesday, right? In other ways, it's you contended with, we had our weekend, you got into Monday, and you managed to struggle through that, and here we are on another Tuesday. Tuesday, it's kind of notoriously, in the restaurant world, Tuesdays are considered the worst days. Like, people don't go out on Tuesdays. They're just kind of getting into the work week. They're kind of contending with everything, and in some ways, this is just another Tuesday. But in the same way, it's also an incredibly holy day. It's a day that's set aside. And so I want to first talk about what that means for something to be holy. So holiness, we've dressed up holiness like it's some, like quite literally, kind of idea. And quite actually, holiness, it goes back in some ways to the tradition of what was called the showbread. And so in the early days of Israel, there would be the little table set up before the Ark of the Covenant, and on that table would be what's called showbread. So, and it was to show the presence of, it's not complicated. To show the presence of God, and they're basically these little cakes, and these little cakes would be, and so because sometimes God needs a snack, I guess, I don't know, but it was the presence of this bread before the altar, and which was then considered holy. Why was it holy? Because when you took it out of the oven, you set it aside. You took these days and you set them aside. Now I want you to think about that in the course of our living in modern life. What are the days we set aside when our children get married? I'm going to take some vacation time, and I'm going to make sure that we have a chance to celebrate that. They become holy days. Why? Because we set them aside in our calendar. When we when someone we love dies and we go to the memorial, or we set up the memorial to honor them, why is that that day it is set aside? We take that time out of our calendar, and instead of going and combing the cat or getting the dog washed or whatever it is, or whatever it is we had in the normal ordinary parts of life, we set it aside and we say, okay, this is, and when we do that, we're declaring it is holy. We're declaring it is holy. When Jesus on Holy Tuesday, in the events of he does a lot of teaching on Tuesday. He kind of ruffles a lot of feathers on Saturday, on Sunday and Monday, and on Tuesday he doesn't stop. He keeps poking the bear. And there's a number of parables that come from what's called the Olivet Discourse. And so this discourse brings with it, and one of them is the parable of the 10 bridesmaids, the parable of the 10 virgins, where they take their lamps and they go to meet the bridegroom, and two of them were foolish, 5 were wise, and then the foolish ones took their lamps, but they took no oil with them. And the wise took flasks of oil for their lamps, and the bridegroom was delayed, and they became drowsy and they slept. But at midnight there was a shout, "Look, here is the bridegroom, come out to meet him." And all of the young women got up and trimmed their lamps. But the foolish ones said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, so that your lamps are going out." But the wise ones said, "No, there will not be enough for you and for us. You had better go to the dealers and buy some for yourselves." And while they went to buy it, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him into the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. And later the young women also came. "Lord, Lord, open to us." But he replied, "Truly I tell you, I do not know you. Keep awake, therefore. You know neither the day nor the hour." This is one of a number of kind of harsh parables that we find in the middle of the Olivet Discourses on this Holy Tuesday. What makes it holy? That we set it aside, right? What made the bread holy is that it was set aside on a really special table with all kinds of gold molding. What makes the days of our lives holy? That we set them aside and that we pay attention to them, that we offer in the middle of them an awareness of what's happening and what's unfolding in the midst of our days. Jesus would go back at the end of this day, and he would go back to Bethany. And whether it's Tuesday night or whether it's Wednesday, the scholars debate, but he'll go back and he'll be adorned with perfume. He'll be the woman with the alabaster jar that will declare him holy by seeing who he was actually in there, who was actually in their midst. Not just a prophet, not just a guy, but the divine itself in the presence with them at table. The showbread was set at the altar to remind the 12 tribes, 12 little loaves of bread, that God's presence was with them. When Jesus tells the parable of the 10 bridesmaids to remind us that the oil of life, the holiness of life, so oil is a sign of God's love, a sign of God's holiness, a sign of God's presence with us, that they didn't have that. They were oblivious to that. And by being oblivious to them, they don't get to go into the feast because they've missed out on the moment in which they've had. What Holy Tuesday tells us, what just another Tuesday tells us, what these parables and these rituals are trying to point us towards, is the sacredness of every moment of our lives. The reality is, every day could be not just the fact that it's the last day of our lives. We all know that, we're one good traffic accident away from meeting our maker. We're aware of that. But it's much more intimate than that. It's much more personal than that. It's that every time we go about doing something, it actually could be the last time we get to do it. Whether it's with a particular person that we love, whether it's a particular song we want to listen to, whether it's no matter what happens. And I'm not just saying this to kind of be morbid and just like, oh, we're all going to die someday. But to really, but in the midst of that, in the presence of that, in the journey, in the run up to the cross of that, there is a wisdom and a reality that we often think we go looking for someplace else. We go looking for the sacred in Holy Scripture or in churches, or when often it's actually right at the table. That the showbread is actually right there in the middle of the people, right with us. That Jesus is actually right there, even in the middle of things. That the oil is right of our lives that would illuminate us and keep us alive is actually right there, but it is for us to pick up and to notice. Someday that, if you've if little kids, that someday, that little kid is gonna walk out of your door and not look back. If you're a little kid, if you're a parent, you always, there's this way that kids grow. Like, we know this, like, right? That there's this way that they'll crawl away, and then they'll look over and they'll see, like, is it okay? And like, you go, okay. And then they'll crawl a little further, and there's this back and forth. If moms are notoriously stuck with this, and sometimes it gets tedious, but there's going to be a day, if you've parented a small child, that small child is going to crawl out and they're not going to look back, because you've done your job. You've done something beautiful in giving them enough autonomy and enough capability to begin to move into the world in their own steam. And whatever age and whatever time that happens, that's going to take place. And they won't look back to you again in the same way ever again. Well, we can say that's filled with grief. Or we can say that the moment that we're in right now, that if you're a mom and you're harried and you're bothered and all that sort of stuff, that moment of looking back is sacred, and it's beautiful, and it's gorgeous, and you should just suck it up, that this is truly the best of things right here and right now. And I don't care what end of life you're on with that, or what end of you're in this is that knowing that the sacred is present only in our presence here and now. And so as much as this is Holy Thursday or Holy Tuesday, not Holy Thursday yet, it is also just another Tuesday, and just another Tuesday in the midst of our life. I remember the last walk I took with my dad. One of the things that I'd always go home since I've been here, when every time I went home, we'd go for a walk, because my dad was actually a great walker. Like, he always used to love to go for walks. And it was, even in the midst of the height of dementia, it was still one of the great joys to get him out. And not a lot of people would take him for walks. It's just kind of how it worked out. Like, my mom's not a big walker, and, he would, sometimes he'd get out here and there, but it was always one of the things I wanted to do with him. And so we'd always go for a walk. And I remember the day that I knew it was the last walk we would ever go on. He stumbled that day and he had trouble, and it was just clear that the time for walking had gone. But what I'm so grateful for, and I'm not telling you this to say, oh, what a good boy am I. I'm just telling you to say that on one off chance, on one off day, I managed to notice something. Is that no matter how kind of absent-minded my dad was in the middle of it, no matter how I recognized the power and the joy of those walks, I think for him too, but I know for me. And I knew that the walking and the being together, and in that, I knew that they would come to an end for a day. But I knew in those moments, and that time, and that hour, all of the hosts of heaven, all of the lights of eternity, all of the beauty and grace was being poured out in a perfume that was worth more than a year's pay, like the woman at the alabaster jar with Christ. Friends, the beauty of these days is exactly that. the beauty of these days. Remember the power and the grace of just another Tuesday. Soak it in. Let's see the face of Christ in the midst of it all. Because the sacred in the ordinary is actually, in some ways, the only place to truly and really find it. If we take Jesus at his word as a man, just a snotty-nosed, receding hairline, basic man that came into this world to be as we are, then truly the sacred is in the ordinary. The great Abraham Maslow, the guy who came up with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, who was all about kind of trying to figure out, what is it these humans actually need anyway, and how do they get there? He writes this: "The sacred is in the ordinary. It is to be found in one's daily life, in one's neighbors, friends, in family, in one's own backyard. Travel may be a flight from confronting the sacred. This lesson can easily be lost. To be looking elsewhere for miracles is to me a sure sign of ignorance that everything is miraculous." Friends, I hope you will embrace the miracles of your days. Wherever you find them, wherever you are, that you'll see the showbread that is set before you in the midst of the people. You will see the beauty of the days that are and the days that are gone by. You'll see the wonder of the table set before you. You will see the joy gathered around the table at Bethany. You will soak up the oil of the days so that when divinity pops its head in, you can say, yes, there you are, and enter in to the great feast of being. That's my hope for all of you today on this any other Tuesday. And we'll pick it up tomorrow with another 11:11. My apologies again for the technical issues and all that we've got. We're, the joys of live work is what it is. So peace and grace to you, my friends. So glad. Irene, glad you made it here. Andy, great to see you. Sharon, glad you're here. Donna, glad you made it. Cecile, glad that you're here. Each of you, have a blessed day. And we'll pick it up tomorrow. Bye-bye.